This is my favourite season in FF14 bar none, interview season, where Yoshida sometimes gets a little bit too candid and gives away a bunch of interesting details about both the coming patch and the team's development timeline extending further towards next expansion to the Japanese media right before the live letter itself. There are 3 new interviews live just today with Japanese pressers Famitsu, 4Gamer and GameWatch, and they were pretty illuminating actually, so we're going to look at the most interesting reveals that come as a result of these 3 and talk about what their ramifications actually mean. If you want to check the interviews out for yourself, they are all linked in the description, and please do bear in mind that for this video I used a mixture of machine translation as well as clarification from Japanese speakers on points that didn't seem clear to me based off of that machine translator. It might not be 100% perfect, but it's close enough. For example, in the Savage section, I talk a bit later on about how they're going to handle the echo for the upcoming 7.4 Savage tier because its timeline is different, and if I'm gonna be honest, the machine translation was terrible. I had no idea what it meant, so I spoke to a Japanese speaker and handed them the paragraphs and they clarified them for me. If you want to support conversations about FF14, please do consider subscribing, thank you very much. This isn't a raiding-centric video, but I want to talk about the Arcadian first, because it's the most exciting to me personally. Yoshida noted that the reasoning for the Savage delay primarily comes from feedback they received during Chaotic's release last year, where Western players felt the release timing was too inconsiderate. For context, Chaotic released on Christmas Eve of 2024, and because of the festive celebrations, many were unable to take part on release, myself included. I did hear rumblings that players were displeased with this release date, and I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I too didn't think it was great, so it's good to see that Square Enix is directly taking feedback on the chin and responding to it properly. I had expected this to be a pain point for the development team. If you delay it out of Christmas to better suit Western audiences, you push it into New Year's, which is a heavily celebrated holiday in Japan as well. The only 2 options that didn't result in one audience losing out are to pull it forward or to push it back beyond both holidays, and I'm very thankful that they honed in on that and acted. Interestingly enough, Yoshida has also confirmed that Savage will be tuned to account for the higher item level that players will possess going into the tier. I didn't expect this, and I'm really glad to see it. The reason I was surprised to see they've put in this extra work is because it affects late clearers, right? If the tier is tuned around, let's say for example 5 extra item levels of Tomestone gear rather than full crafted, those that typically end up clearing later in the tier in best in slot come up against an overall tougher fight that they might find unreasonable. With that said, he has stated they have a plan in mind for those players. He noted that they will use the echo to tune the fight later down the road and ensure that those players get the same experience they usually would. Win-win really, you love to see it. He teased that one of the encounters may have tag fighters, which is something many have already predicted taking place with these 2 guys on the poster, so this is one of the encounters we can expect to see in 7.4 Savage tier. Their focus on the tier is to create imaginative and fun challenges for the player rather than just being difficult for difficulty's sake. That comes secondary to being imaginative and expressive. Then he hits us with the big one, stating that release schedules and the old way they've always done things are no longer set in stone. This extends to release dates, such as in this case, but also gear upgrades and more. They are re-evaluating how to fit FF14 into people's lives in the present day, and if they think of alterations that act in service of that, they will begin to take them. Regarding Ultimate, he reiterated that the next one is scheduled for a few weeks after 7.5. We can assume it's going to be 2 as normal, acting as a soft confirmation that we can expect to see no additional delays on it. He won't leak who we will be fighting yet. That will be saved most likely for the first 7.5 live letter, but he says that it's new content that will have us saying wow. I'm kinda in for Ascian Tail Ultimate honestly, go on lad. Variant dungeons were also mentioned, with Yoshida providing context on the theme of the dungeon. He said that firstly, Ishikawa will be the writer of the story to ensure that the theming is properly portrayed, and that the premise is us going into a storybook in order to help out one of Y'shtola's siblings. The same staff that designed the encounters for Dawntrail's 3 variant dungeons will be working on this one as well, so if you loved those fights, you can expect the same level of imagination and quality from these. They have mentioned that this version has 3 difficulties before, but he shed some light on the middle difficulty, stating that it was designed with the modern gamer in mind, who might not have the free time to invest in doing all 3 bosses in one sitting, and it still provides them rewards for their efforts. This version lets you do 2 to 4 man versions of the bosses, and you can do 1, 2, or 3 of them at your choice and collect drops for each. They aren't entirely sure how well this will play out once it reaches market, so it's an experiment of sorts, much like the Quantum release was in 7.35. I imagine Square Enix will be looking for feedback on this when it releases in what I can only imagine is going to be 7.45. To make sure there's still a bit of longevity, there is a reward for doing all 3 bosses on advanced difficulty in one attempt, as they felt it was crucial to reward that commitment. All 3 difficulties will have mechanical changes from one another this time, more so than just incoming damage and DPS check scaling, so they will be 3 unique experiences for the player. Criterion has unique rewards too, though what they are hasn't been revealed as of yet. When it comes to the trial against Doom Train, which has been hotly anticipated and showcased heavily in pre-release images, Yoshida confirms that this is a main scenario quest trial, and that it will utilise the battle arena in interesting ways, because they didn't want it to just end up being a cast bar staring simulator. If you did Phantom Train, all I can say is that I hope they have some version of that pushy ghost rear its head again, because watching that murder people cracked me up every single time. In another interesting point, Yoshida stated that they haven't confirmed the totem count from Extreme yet, and that the 1 or 2 totem rule they've been following for many years now since Shadowbringers first introduced 2 totems isn't customizable enough, so in future their plan is to reconsider how many totems can drop from a trial to make it better suit both the challenge and length. The Extreme will be more of a puzzle-centric battle requiring pattern recognition than one that is about see AoE, dodge AoE. It reminds me a little bit of how they marketed the Rubicante battle last expansion, and I wasn't a huge fan of that one, so I'm curious to see what they do this time around. When it came to the main scenario quest, details were kind of scant, but he did confirm that 7.4 is to act as a bridge in terms of storytelling to what comes next, and that 7.5 is when the real lead up into 8.x's plotline will commence. Last expansion, the story ended with the 0.0 patch, with an intermediary plotline taking place in between, and Square Enix ended up feeling that the transition to Dawntrail was too weak as a result of this, so they have reverted to the 0.3x end of expansion story split yet again. 7.4 will reveal information about the key and what's going on in those other worlds. He also states that he feels throughout the Zodiac and Hydaelyn saga, they've been afforded the opportunity to delve into the tales of most of the Scions, with one major exception, so that will be a focus for 7.4 as well. It's probably Kryl, though I'm not an MSQ deep diver, so there's a good chance I'm just wrong. Regarding my most anticipated and most chronically delayed feature, the strategy board, Yoshida teased some more information as well. He said that it will let you save 10 folders with 5 strategies in each folder. These can be switched while playing, and you can highlight the icon you are responsible for so you can have it up on screen during a pull and switch to a new board when the phase changes. Your strategies will have a code that you can share to others so that they can import your strategies to their folders, hopefully allowing for direct in-game strat unification even for console users. The strategy board can also be shared with the party and edited in real time, but only one person can make changes at once. Regarding Glamour, he states that it's something they're pushing to release now rather than saving it for the 8.0 keynote in an effort to be more responsive to player desires and the demands of the market. It's fair to say that the subtext here is that this was originally planned for next expansion, but they pushed it forward, which kind of does confirm a lot of predictions that users had that this was somewhat of a break glass in case of emergency situation. This is a general philosophy shift though within the team, because in the past they would see situations like this and essentially say, it is what it is, because changing it would be such a hassle, despite it being absolutely possible to do with a little bit of hard graft. This includes things like the Glamour restrictions being lifted, and he specifically stated the stagnant Allagan Tomestone system here as well as another example. They are for sure changing how Tomestones work next expansion, by the way. He keeps constantly mentioning that. He made an additional note that racial gear is still restricted and will continue to be so for now. Racial identity is important to Square Enix and they don't want to jeopardize that in pursuit of some quick win. He mentions that in regards to character creator, that putting Aura horns on a Lalafell is something that they definitely do not want to do. He did, however, state that they do have gradual plans to increase the scope of character creation in line with their current philosophy. Linking to this, but also a bit tangentially different, he has stated that he's aware that MMOs as a genre is one that's receding a little. Nowadays, there are less successful MMOs and less MMOs in general, especially those that are being regularly updated. And yet, there are a ton of online mobile RPGs. Players expect the standards from those mobile games rather than antiquated MMORPG standards, especially in regards to cosmetic and glamour restrictions. He states that his preference has always been to keep things classical. A dragoon should use a spear and do the Kain pose and wear armour, but the team have allowed their personal preferences to restrict the player, and this has left them behind in the dust of this market shift to more player choice. He has decided to entrust this sort of thinking to the players now, instead of forcing the vision of the developers on them. One of the reasons for this shift was, incidentally, mod culture. Interestingly, because you would never hear him say this publicly a couple of years ago in a post-Heaven's Ward world, Yoshida states that he's generally in favour of mod culture, except where it hinders business. He believes that if they can provide the functionality directly, then the mod that hinders business in that way no longer needs to be made. I wonder if all this links back to what he mentioned over the past month or so in other interviews, where he talks about FF14 needing to adapt to meet the demands of the modern market. My expectation is that he sees mobile MMOs and even gacha games as FF14's direct competition in the present day, because they are both competing for a slice of the end user's daily time. More and more, it is becoming a requirement for these games to become a part of the player's routine in order to maintain as much relevancy as possible. I'm going to be honest though, I am loving this level of communication and discussion from Square Enix, as well as a willingness to move out of their comfort zone. I hope we keep seeing more and more of this going forward, because it is a very positive trend. Either way, live letter tomorrow, so we should get both the patch trailer and some more good stuff. Can't wait for 7.4, honestly. Please do consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube member like these fine folk. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.